Harper Keene nearly dropped her burnt toast when she opened the envelope. It was thick, cream-colored, sealed with gold foil, and definitely not something that belonged in her tiny Brooklyn mailbox wedged between apartment flyers and pizza coupons. Her name was printed in bold script. Harper Keene. No address, no explanation, just an invitation. She tore it open with her thumb and blinked at the words. You are cordially invited to attend the Global Innovation Leaders Conference, hosted at the Westbridge Grand Hotel, Manhattan. All expenses paid. Exclusive access. VIP badge enclosed. What? She whispered, flipping the card over. No sender. No contact info. No reason why a junior marketing assistant at a small eco-branding firm would be invited to a conference that usually featured Fortune 500 CEOs and tech moguls. She stared at it for one more second before her coffee machine hissed behind her, snapping her out of it. She was already late. Still, that evening, after she kicked off her shoes in her studio apartment and Googled the event, it became even weirder. The conference was invite-only. Elite. A-listers. Billion-dollar companies. Yet there it was her name in the attendee list. Spelled right. Clear as day. She called her boss, Carla, who sounded more confused than suspicious. No clue how you got that, Harper. But if someone's footing the bill, go. Network. Worst case, you get free champagne. Harper hesitated. She didn't belong at something like that. But something about the mystery tugged at her. So 2 days later, Harper stood in front of the Westbridge Grand Hotel, staring up at the glittering glass tower that looked like it belonged in a movie. Inside, everything smelled like money. Polished marble floors, towering chandeliers, a welcome desk with 3 people dressed better than she'd ever been. She wore her best blazer and heels she could barely walk in. Name? One of the women asked. Harper Keene. A quick tap on the tablet. VIP access. Here you go. A black lanyard was placed around Harper's neck. Mr. Oakes is expecting you. Harper blinked. Who? The woman smiled. The CEO. He's personally hosting this year. Before Harper could ask anything else, someone gently nudged her forward. The crowd was buzzing with people dressed in designer everything, sipping champagne, laughing like they all already knew each other. She felt like a kid crashing a royal banquet. Then she saw him. He wasn't on a stage. He wasn't at a podium. He was walking through the crowd casually like he wasn't the billionaire who'd built Oakes Tech from scratch and had Forbes covers to his name. Tall, dark-haired, dressed in a clean-cut navy suit that probably cost more than her rent for a year. Talon Oakes. Harper had seen his photo in business articles. But in person, he was different. More magnetic. More real. He wasn't smiling. Just scanning the room like he was looking for something. Then he stopped. His eyes landed on her. And held. Harper felt the breath leave her body. He didn't look away. He started walking toward her. She panicked. She turned, pretending to fix her badge. But then he was there standing right in front of her. You're Harper Keene? His voice was low but clear. Yeah. That's me. He studied her face like he was trying to figure her out. I'm Talon. I'm glad you came. Thanks, she said, even though she had no idea why on earth he'd be glad. This is definitely not what I expected. I know, he said, but I invited you. Harper blinked. You did. He gave a small nod, eyes never leaving hers. I read your article. The one on sustainable brand identity. The way you broke down consumer trust and emotional value in eco-friendly markets. It was brilliant. Harper's mouth dropped. That was just a blog post. It wasn't just anything, he said. It was smart, sharp, and miles ahead of what half the people in this room are saying with 10 times the budget. She didn't know what to say. The billionaire CEO of Oakes Tech had read her blog? Honestly, I didn't think you'd come, he added. I almost didn't, she admitted. Thought it was a scam. His lips twitched. Fair. A man in a headset rushed over, whispering something into Talon's ear. Talon nodded slightly, then turned back to her. I have to give the opening speech, he said. But don't leave after. I want to speak to you again. Then he was gone, swept into the crowd like a king returning to his throne. Harper stood frozen, heart pounding. What was happening? The rest of the evening was a blur. She watched his speech, which was powerful and precise and yet somehow still personal. He looked at her once during it. Just once. But she felt it like a lightning bolt. Afterward, she tried to stay out of the way. She wasn't one of them, these VIPs, executives, power players. But then Talon found her again near the champagne bar. You good? He asked. She nodded. Still wondering if I'm dreaming. He chuckled. Come with me. He led her to a quieter room, a private lounge no one else seemed to know about. Plush velvet sofas, gold accents, soft music. I'm not going to pretend this isn't weird, Harper said, sitting down. Why me? Out of all the people you could have invited. Because, Talon said, taking the seat beside her and leaning in slightly, I'm tired of rooms full of noise and no real thought. Your words cut through that. And I wanted to meet the woman behind them. Her cheeks burned. That's flattering. You're not used to being seen, are you? He asked softly. She looked at him. Not like this. He leaned back, studying her. Good. Then maybe this will be interesting. She raised a brow. This? He smiled. You, me. Let's see what happens. She laughed nervously. You don't even know me. Not yet, he said, eyes glinting. But I want to. And just like that, Harper's world tilted. Because Talon Oakes wasn't just rich or powerful or impossibly handsome. He was curious, focused, and for some reason he decided he wanted to know her. And for the first time in a long time, Harper didn't want to run from it. She wanted to fall straight in. The next morning, Harper stood in front of her bathroom mirror, brushing the steam off with a towel, still wondering if she'd hallucinated the night before. But the black VIP lanyard hanging from the doorknob and the sleek Oakes Tech envelope on her nightstand said otherwise. There was a knock at her door just as she was pulling her hair into a bun. She frowned, checked the peephole, and blinked. A uniformed courier stood on the other side, holding a long garment bag and a smaller velvet box. Delivery for Harper Keene, he said, handing her a clipboard without waiting for confirmation. She signed, confused, and took the items inside. The bag was heavy, the fabric inside smooth beneath the plastic. She unzipped it slowly and gasped. Inside was a floor-length navy jumpsuit, tailored and elegant, with subtle gold detailing at the cuffs. It was the kind of thing you'd see in fashion spreads, silent luxury, no labels, just perfect design. The note inside the box was handwritten. If you're coming tonight, I figured you'd need something that actually belongs in that room. Talon, she stared at it, then opened the velvet box. Inside was a pair of earrings, delicate gold hoops with tiny sapphire droplets. Understated. Stunning. She didn't know what stunned her more, that he remembered she said she might come back, or that he'd taken the time to do this. That evening, she arrived at the Westbridge Grand again, this time with fewer nerves, but no less awe. The doorman opened the car door for her before she could touch the handle, and someone inside greeted her by name, escorting her not to the main ballroom but to the rooftop. She stepped out of the elevator and stopped mid-step. Glass walls shimmered in the light of dozens of suspended lanterns. A long table sat beneath a canopy of cascading white orchids. Only a handful of guests were there, all seated, all powerful looking, all turning to look at her as if she were the guest of honor. Talon was at the head of the table, his chair empty. He was standing, speaking with a silver-haired woman in a sharply tailored suit, but the second he saw Harper, he excused himself and walked toward her. You came, he said, slipping a hand lightly to her back as he led her toward the others. I almost didn't, she replied. But then I saw the jumpsuit. Too much. Too perfect. He introduced her to the others, founders, investors, a media strategist whose name she recognized from headlines. They all greeted her with a curious warmth, but she could feel the unspoken questions in their glances. Who is she? Why is she here? As dinner was served, Talon didn't sit beside her. He remained at the head, orchestrating conversation, but his gaze found hers more than once. When dessert came, a deconstructed lime tart with edible gold flakes, he finally stood. "I'll walk you down," he said quietly, not waiting for an answer. The elevator opened into a quieter floor, no guests, no noise. Just a long hallway lined with floor-to-ceiling windows. He stopped near one of them, looking out at the Manhattan skyline. "I wasn't sure if sending the outfit would scare you off." "It almost did," she admitted. "But not for the reason you think." He glanced over. "Tell me. It's hard to know what you are in a room like that, where everyone else speaks in stock options and legacy. I'm not from that world." "I know," he said. "That's why I wanted you there." "But why?" she asked, finally facing him fully. "You could have invited a dozen consultants, analysts, people with decades of experience." "I've met all of them," he interrupted. "I've heard their pitches, their predictions. They want to impress. You actually think." She folded her arms. "You don't know that." "I do," he said. "Because I watched you last night. You didn't try to win anyone over. You listened. You observed. And when you did speak, you said things that mattered." A long silence stretched between them. He stepped closer. "I'm not offering you a job," he said. "Not yet. But I want to know what you'd do if you had a seat at that table." "I'd probably drop the silverware," she said without thinking. He laughed, quiet, genuine. "You'd be surprised how many people do." She looked up at him, the city lights catching in his eyes. "You're different than I thought. Good different. Scary different." He nodded slowly. "I'll take that." She reached for the elevator button, but he caught her hand gently. "Come to the gala tomorrow," he said. "It's the last night of the conference. Everyone will be there and it'll be chaos. But I want you to see something." "What?" "Me. When I'm not trying to impress anyone." She hesitated. "You already did that." He let go of her hand, but not her gaze. "Then let me try something harder." The next morning, Harper found herself pacing her apartment, phone in hand, unread messages piling up. Her coworker had sent her a screenshot of a gossip site with the headline, "Who is Talon Oakes' mystery dinner date?" The photo was grainy but unmistakable, her walking beside Talon, his hand at her back. She didn't reply. Instead, she pulled the gala invitation from where she'd stuffed it in her drawer. She hadn't RSVP'd. She hadn't decided if she'd go. But somehow her closet already held another garment bag. No note this time. Just another choice. And a question she didn't want to answer yet. What if she wasn't just part of some passing interest? What if Talon Oakes wanted something real? And what if she wanted it too? The gala was held at the Sky Vault, a glass-domed ballroom perched on the top floor of the Westbridge Grand, with a panoramic view of the city that looked like it had been carved from fire and diamonds. Harper stepped out of the private elevator, breath catching not from the altitude, but the sight before her. Hundreds of guests were already mingling beneath a sea of crystal chandeliers. A live band played something smooth and jazzy near the grand piano. Servers moved like clockwork, balancing champagne flutes. And in the center, a circular bar glowed softly beneath the dome, casting golden light across the polished floor. She wore the gown Talon had sent, sleek, midnight-colored, with a modest neckline and an open back that made her feel both powerful and exposed. Her heels clicked against the marble as she moved forward, every inch of her aware that she didn't know what to expect. Then she saw him. He wasn't speaking with anyone. He was standing at the far end of the room, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a glass of something amber. His tuxedo was impossibly tailored, and his gaze found hers with such precision, she slowed mid-step. "I thought you changed your mind," he said when she reached him. "I almost did," she replied. "But then I figured if I was already in over my head, I might as well keep swimming." Talon exhaled a short breath that almost resembled relief. "You look like you belong here." "I don't," she said. "But I'm learning how to fake it." His eyes searched her face like he was trying to read something she hadn't said. "You don't need to fake anything." Before she could respond, a woman in a navy suit approached, handing Talon a card. He glanced at it for a beat, then nodded with a tight thank you. "Everything all right?" Harper asked. He folded the card into his jacket pocket. "Just a reminder I've got half the city watching my next move." "Because of the company?" Because of what the company represents, he said. Power makes people uneasy. Especially when they can't predict what you'll do next. Are you planning something unpredictable? I invited you, didn't I? She tilted her head. That still doesn't explain what you want from all this. He leaned slightly closer. Maybe tonight, I'll show you. He extended a hand. She hesitated, then placed hers in his. They walked past the crowd, through a side corridor, and into a quieter section of the floor. It wasn't empty, but it was removed, with fewer people and a long row of windows that opened to a rooftop terrace dusted in soft white lights. A few guests were gathered near heat lamps, but none paid them any attention. I used to come up here alone in the early days, Talon said, settling beside her at the edge of the glass railing. Before the company was what it is now. Back then, I slept maybe 4 hours a night, burned through 2 desks, a relationship, and a pair of lungs that still haven't forgiven me. You don't strike me as someone who talks about the past. I usually don't, he said. But you make me want to. She glanced at him. Why? Because you aren't impressed by all this, he said. And that makes you the only person worth being honest with tonight. Harper turned toward the city, the wind catching the loose strands of her hair. So what did you want to show me? She asked. Talon pulled out a small device from his pocket and pressed a button. Below them, on the side of a nearby building, a massive projection came to life. It wasn't a logo or a product pitch. It was a map highlighting underserved communities, eco-initiatives, and data points that blinked slowly across the city grid. This is the next phase, he said. Not just tech. Impact. We've been building the infrastructure for 6 months. I want to change how investment is measured by the lives it touches, not just the margin it grows. She stared, stunned. Why are you telling me this? Because I want your help. Not as a consultant. Not as a figurehead. As someone who sees the human side. You understand how people attach meaning to the brands they trust. That's what this needs. She blinked. This is billions of dollars worth of planning. You're handing me a piece of that. I'm offering you a seat at the table, he said. Not because I'm being generous. Because you're the missing piece. The magnitude of it hit her all at once. She wasn't being courted for a job. She was being invited to help build something that could change lives. And she didn't doubt, even for a second, that he meant it. Why now? She asked. Why me? You could have your pick of strategists with 10 times my experience. I've done that, he said. And all they gave me were numbers. You give meaning. She turned toward him, unsure whether to be flattered or terrified. You're serious. I don't waste time, he said. Especially not mine. A gust of wind whipped between them. She folded her arms, still processing the enormity of what he'd just offered. I need time, she said finally. You've got it, Talon replied. But don't take too long. I'm not good at waiting. She didn't answer. Not yet. They returned to the party, but nothing felt the same. The music, the people, the glittering conversations, all of it dulled beneath the hum of something real. Something that had started quietly and now threatened to change everything. Later that night, after the gala faded into champagne memories, Harper stood barefoot in her apartment, staring at her reflection in the dark window. Behind her, the gown hung over a chair. On the floor beside it, her heels. Her phone buzzed once on the counter, but she didn't check it. She already knew who it was. What she didn't know, what she wasn't ready to face, was the truth pressing louder than ever in her chest. She wasn't just a guest anymore. She was becoming the reason Talon Oakes stopped pretending. The invitation came 3 weeks later, hand-delivered to Harper's office while she was reviewing brand proposals in a shared conference room. It wasn't in a thick envelope this time, just a white card with a single embossed line across the bottom. Dinner. Tonight. 7. The observatory. No name. No logo. No instructions. But she didn't need them. She stared at it for a long moment, heart thudding like it had been waiting for this exact disruption. She didn't tell anyone. She didn't ask if she should go. She just knew. By 7, she stood at the edge of the private observatory on the top floor of the Harbor Line Tower, a building she'd only ever passed on the subway, not walked into. A staff member in a charcoal suit motioned her through the curated silence of the lobby and into a private elevator. When the doors opened, she stepped into a space lit only by candles and the last gold streaks of sunset pouring in through the glass ceiling. The entire city stretched around her, endless and glowing. Talon stood near the center of the room, adjusting the collar of his shirt as if he hadn't already been waiting. "You came," he said, voice lower than usual. "You invited me," Harper replied, stepping forward. "I figured that meant there was something you needed to say." "There is," he said, walking toward her. "But I also needed to see you." She paused in front of him. "Why now?" "Because I made a mistake," he said. Harper's breath caught, but she didn't move. "What kind of mistake?" "I thought I could keep everything separate," he said. "Business, emotion, logic, keep it all compartmentalized. But then I met you. And suddenly, I couldn't." She crossed her arms, not to close herself off, but to steady the shakiness that came with hearing him like this, unfiltered, without an audience. "I didn't ask you to compartmentalize anything." "I know," he said. "You didn't ask for anything. And that's what made me realize how much I wanted to give it." He stepped closer. "I've spent my entire adult life building an empire designed to keep people at arm's length. Success was supposed to be the reward. But it's hollow when you can't share it with someone who sees you outside of it." She didn't look away. "And you think I see you?" "You see past it," he corrected. "You never tried to impress me. You never played the game. You made me want to stop playing it, too." The sun dipped behind the skyline, casting the room into a soft, golden shadow. "I've never had a blueprint for this," he said. "But I know what I want. I want to build something with you. Not just a campaign. Not just a company. Something real." "Talon," she began, but he wasn't finished. "I've already started the community initiative," he continued. "You were right about tying brand to impact. We're funding 3 new programs, and I want you leading the narrative. On your terms. No strings. No corporate leash." Harper's throat tightened. "You're offering me a position?" "I'm offering you a partnership," he said. "Creative control. Full autonomy. You name the role. You define it." She stared at him, lips parting slightly. "That's not usually how billionaires operate. I'm not interested in usual anymore." The silence stretched between them, but it wasn't uncomfortable. It was filled with 1,000 unspoken things. Harper stepped toward the edge of the observatory, fingers brushing against the glass. "When I was in college, I used to come up here on Saturdays. I'd ride the elevator to the top floor of the public library across the street and just stare at this building. I used to tell myself that if I ever got in, it would mean I'd made it." Talon joined her, standing just close enough to feel the warmth of his presence. "And now that you're here," he asked. "I don't care about the building anymore," she said. "I care about what happens inside it." He turned to her fully. "Then let's make something happen." She met his gaze, her voice quiet but steady. "I don't want to be a footnote in your story, Talon. I want to write the next chapter with you. Together. Equal." His eyes didn't waver. "That's the only way I'd want it." He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small box, not velvet-lined, not dramatic, just simple, elegant, understated. "I don't follow rules," he said. "I don't wait for the right moment. But I know this one's right." Harper's breath caught as he opened the box. Inside was a ring made of brushed gold with a single, small diamond, not flashy, not loud. "Just honest. I'm not asking you to marry me today," he said. "I'm asking you to start something with me. Something we build from the ground up. No playbook. No deadlines. Just us." She stared at it for a long moment, then at him. "You're not doing this just to prove something, are you?" she asked. "No," he said. "I'm doing it because I've never been more certain of anything. And because I don't want to imagine the next phase of my life without you in it." She let out a slow breath. "Then you should know something." "What?" "I don't say yes unless I mean it. I wouldn't want you to." She reached out, closed the box softly, and placed her hand over his. "Yes," she said. Let's build something. Talon exhaled, not with relief, but with something deeper, like he'd finally come home. They didn't kiss. Not immediately. They just stood there, eyes locked, a city sprawling beneath them, and a future unfolding between them. Later that night, he drove her home himself, not in a limousine, but in a quiet silver sedan. No press, no cameras, just them. And before she stepped out, he leaned over and whispered one thing into the hollow of her neck. I fell for you the moment you made me forget I was supposed to impress you. She turned to him, eyes shining. Then it's a good thing I never planned to be impressed. They both laughed, not the polished kind of laughter you offer strangers, but the kind that came from something shared, something real. And in that moment, the city didn't feel so big. Because somewhere between an unexpected invitation and a rooftop promise, Harper Keene had become the woman who changed everything. And Talon Oakes had finally found the one thing he couldn't build on his own. Love? The morning sky glowed a pale lavender as Harper stepped onto the balcony of Talon's Upper East Side penthouse. The breeze carried the scent of early spring, cool earth, soft blossoms, a promise of something shifting. Below, the city stirred slowly, unaware that the man who owned half its skyline stood barefoot in a black t-shirt, holding 2 mugs of coffee as if he'd never known boardrooms or press conferences. I've never seen you this still, Harper said, taking one of the mugs. I've never had a reason to be, Talon replied. He leaned against the railing beside her, eyes on the horizon. The silence between them wasn't heavy, it was full, comfortable. The kind of silence that only came when 2 people had nothing left to prove. You've barely touched your emails, she said, sipping from the mug. I delegated, he answered. They'll survive without me for one day. Harper gave him a sideways glance. You do realize that's the first time you've said that out loud? I'm evolving, he said. Must be your influence. They spent the rest of the morning away from obligation. No phones. No meetings. Just 2 people learning how to live in the same space without the armor they'd worn for too long. By noon, Harper stood at the long glass table in Talon's office-turned-studio reviewing the proposal draft they'd worked on for the new foundation initiative. The layout had changed, so had the tone. It was no longer a corporate push. It was personal now, rooted in community partnerships and long-term sustainability. Her fingerprints were all over it. You took out the investor metrics, she said, flipping the last page. I replaced them with stories, Talon replied. Real ones, from the pilot communities we're targeting. She looked up. You're not worried they'll push back? I'm counting on it, he said. It means we're doing something different. He paused, watching her tuck a loose strand of hair behind her ear. I signed the trust documents this morning, he added quietly. Her brow lifted. The ones naming the foundation autonomous? He nodded. It won't be mine. It'll belong to the people it's meant to serve. You'll oversee the board. Talon, you said you wanted us equal, he said. So I'm making space. She drew in a breath, heartful in a way she hadn't expected. You don't have to keep proving yourself. I'm not, he said. I'm building with you. That night, they attended the inaugural fundraiser for the foundation. It was held inside an old train terminal, now restored into a sprawling art gallery in Soho. Instead of the usual suits and speeches, the room pulsed with music, murals, and local vendors showcasing their work. It felt alive. Real. As the evening unfolded, Harper stood near the edge of a sculpture exhibit, a glass of sparkling water in hand, watching Talon speak with a group of city officials. There was something different in his posture, not guarded, not commanding, open, present. When he finally crossed the room and found her, he didn't greet her with a line or a compliment. He simply took her hand and kissed her knuckles. I'm glad you're here, he said. I'm glad you still want me here, she replied. He leaned in, his voice low. You're the only part of this I was ever certain about. They danced that night. Not in front of everyone, not beneath spotlights, but in the quiet corner of the gallery while the band played something slow and worn and beautiful. His hand on her waist, hers on his shoulder, and the world fading away around them. Weeks passed. Spring melted into early summer. The foundation launched 3 pilot programs, each met with genuine community engagement. Harper built a team of writers, designers, and advocates all driven by the same vision. Talon stepped back from the spotlight, focusing instead on mentorship and strategy, letting others lead where he once would have dominated. One morning, Harper stood in the kitchen of their shared home, a brownstone tucked on a quiet street in Gramercy, when Talon walked in holding a folded envelope. He set it on the counter between them. "What is that?" she asked. "Something overdue," he said. She opened it slowly, eyes skimming the elegant typeface. Her brows lifted. "You bought the library?" she asked, stunned. "Not all of it," he said. "Just the rooftop. It's being turned into a public garden. I named it after your mother." She stared at him, throat tight. "You remembered her name?" "She raised someone who changed the way I see the world," he said. "That deserves more than a plaque." She moved around the counter and wrapped her arms around him, burying her face against his chest. He held her there, neither of them speaking for a long time. Later that summer, they returned to the observatory where it all shifted. This time, not for a proposal, not for a speech, but for a vow. Under soft candlelight and the hush of the city below, they exchanged simple gold bands, surrounded by only the people who mattered. No press, no spectacle, just promises, just truth. "I don't want perfect," Harper told him as they stood at the glass railing, rings warm on their fingers. "I want real, messy, honest, every version of you." "I'm yours," he said, voice steady. Every version. Their first dance wasn't choreographed. They didn't need it to be. It was just them, swaying beneath the stars, learning that love wasn't a grand performance, it was the quiet choice, made over and over again. Years passed. They grew. Together. Sometimes sideways, but always forward. Harper's name became synonymous with innovation and impact. Talon's empire shifted into something more human. They didn't chase perfection. They built something lasting. On their 5th anniversary, they stood in the rooftop garden of the old library, now filled with lavender and soft lights. Children's laughter echoed from the story circle below. Harper's hand rested on the gentle curve of her stomach. Talon brushed a kiss to her temple. "Still glad you opened that envelope?" She smiled, eyes glowing. "It didn't just change my life. It gave me one." And as the city pulsed around them, full and bright, Harper Keene and Talon Oakes stood hand in hand, no longer just a woman who wrote a blog and a man who built an empire, but 2 people who had found their way home. Together. Always.